All right, thank you guys for tuning into the Sisters Talk podcast. I'm your host, Danny M. I have the beautiful Miss Asia Carroll.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining.
And today we have special guest, Mr. Baseem Aziz. Am I pronouncing your name proper? Let me know.
Baseem Abdul-Aziz, yes.
Okay, wow. Woo, okay, that's intimidating, guys. So today we're going to talk about the secret trauma that a lot of men are hiding. And I know this is going to be a good topic for a lot of ladies to tune in because we get into relationships with guys, and just like we bring baggage to relationships, so do they. And it's not intentional, but it's a very real topic. So we thought we'd start the year off about this type of topic regarding males because it's a new year, new love is going to blossom. Springtime is around the corner. And the best way moving forward into any relationship is having the understanding, having the knowledge about self and about others, and being able to be compassionate and understanding about what it is that we're going through in life. And most people can attest 2020 was a huge challenge, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, on all levels. So without further ado, Mr. Baseem, I would like for you to tell the audience who you are and where you're from.
Well, my name is Baseem Abdul-Aziz. I'm from originally from Newark, New Jersey. I'm the owner and founder of Development Life's New Direction, LLC. I'm a professional coach. My specialty is personal development, helping individuals define themselves through the different layers that all of us possess.
Love it so much. So this is something very, very serious. What made you get into the concept of personal development? Like, what happened to you in your personal life that made you say, this is my niche? This is something that I have to do for myself and for my community.
Well, I'm a retired correction officer. So I spent many years around a group of men and just watching the different traumas that men was going through to put them in that situation. And I always there was a listening ear trying to give some positive advice, even though being in a negative situation, so that they can grow and become better within inside themselves. And one day joking with a friend, I said, I should become a life coach, not knowing there was even a profession of a life coach, and looked it up, found out this is actually a real profession. So upon that, I dedicated myself and went and picked up a certification from IPEC, one of the top 3 life coaching schools in the nation. And after that, it's just personal development seemed the best for me because it gave me a chance to be personal with different people on different levels.
I love it. Now, go ahead. I'm sorry.
How did people respond to you when you first told them you were interested in being a life coach and you went to school for it?
Well, a lot of people are very, very positive because, like I said, I always find myself having conversations, trying to uplift someone. So it was received very well.
Nice. And on the opposite end of that spectrum, how difficult has it been to talk to, I would say, guys? Because a lot of guys have a stereotype of they don't talk much. They don't like to open up and share their feelings. Have you faced any challenges in your experience so far?
Absolutely, because what it is with guys, most of all, society has pretty much put a label of, for us men, we're supposed to be hardened. We're not supposed to be sensitive. We're not supposed to cry. Even myself, as a 4-year-old, my father, one of the only things I remember him telling me, he said, men don't cry. So I kind of like put that in my head. And what I did, I suppressed my feelings for many years in order not to break the tradition of what it is to be a man.
Wow, that's Asia. You hear that? That's just powerful because I do believe that there's a huge stigma, regarding men, as particularly Black men, I've noticed that, right? Like there's certain things that you guys will do or that you won't do because you're worried about how it's perceived. Would you agree
Right.
with that, Mr. Baseem?
Absolutely. Even in a relationship, you find a lot of men, a woman asks a man, well, how do you feel about me? And, he will dance around that issue and not in order not to have to answer that question.
Why do you think that is?
Well, once again, it goes back to the stigma of what a man is supposed to be. And it's not necessarily true. In the coaching world, we refer to that as limited beliefs.
That's powerful. That's very powerful. Limited beliefs can, it's all around in our community.
Absolutely. A lot of times, like I said, limited beliefs affected from your family, your friends that you choose, the neighborhood you grow up in, all that plays a part of your limited beliefs.
I agree.
Yes, I totally agree with that. And so from your experience, did you feel at any point in your life you had limited beliefs?
Well, I didn't really learn about limited beliefs until, like I said, I actually took the coaching class, and it actually gave me an opportunity to do some inner framework on myself. And I actually start opening up about different things that I was dealing with that I didn't realize I was dealing with.
That's so true. I know for myself, when I became a life coach, I examined myself as well. And you actually were the pivotal person to help me learn about myself when you coached me. And I learned about, the traumas that I never dealt with as a child that rolled over into my adulthood. And so I can definitely see how you can relate to that.
Yes. I have a question too. How do you guys feel about the traumas between, or the relationship between a mother and dad for a male? How does that childhood relationship pour over into his adulthood? Like, let's say, for instance, for example, you have a mom who's always at work, doesn't really show affection to her son, always tells him to man up whenever he hurts himself, that, men don't cry or boys don't cry. How do you think that would pour into his adulthood, both positive and negatively?
Well, positively, it would make him strong and make him more so independent. But the reverse to that is sometimes because of the love and affection he didn't get, he becomes hardened. And when it's time for him to love, he can't love properly.
100% agree with that. Like, Asia, have you experienced that as well?
Absolutely. I have so much in so many different relationships, even friendships. I've had friends where I just could not understand why this person would not open up, and they would just keep so many secrets in the friendship in regards to how they felt emotionally. And that just speaks to why.
Yeah. Like, do you have any advice for some men and women who may be dealing with this type of limited thinking and inability to really share who they really are?
Well, what I would say is, far as especially people of color, we have a problem with seeking professional help. I would say get over the stigma and get the help that you need in order for you to move forward, because the negative feeling, it continues to lay dormant in you as long as you're not doing anything to release it.
So do you think a good method in releasing some of that trauma, some of that tension and fear and guilt and every other negative feeling associated with that, do you think it can be done through conversation?
It can be. It depends on who you're having a conversation with, because you have to be willing to open up to that individual during that conversation.
That's true, because sometimes people can't relate to people they seek help from. So they may have a friend whose mindset is just completely limited and negative. And if they go to that friend and have a conversation with them, they may not be able to help them.
Very good point. That's a real good point. You know, I have a question about, I have a question about a lot of things, but we already talked about how society can fuel this negative connotation of what it is to be a man, which is really sad. But can you list some signs that we should look out for to determine whether or not a person has suffered from trauma? Because some of us really are ignorant to that. We just don't know because we haven't been around it.
Well, I use myself for example. Being a Gulf War veteran, you know, when I came home, really, there was no type of out-process help for me when I came home. They just sent me home. And I found myself self-medicating with alcohol for many years. And I went from being a soldier to being a correction officer. So I went from one high-risk career to another. So as I'm there as a correction officer, I'm seeing even more trauma. So the alcohol became my go-to, and a lot of people didn't understand it, or they didn't notice it, because most of my friends were correction officers, and they was right there drinking along with me, because a lot of us was dealing with the same thing, you know. And later on, we find out there's a very high suicide rate in that profession. And it took me one day to just wake up and I said, I don't want to drink no more. And that's when I decided to start getting some help for myself.
That's an amazing story. I've never known that, and I've known you my entire life. And so just for you sharing that and being vulnerable, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, you know, nowadays I try to be transparent as possible.
That's really good. I think, you know, especially we're in a new year. I keep emphasizing that. So hopefully that will encourage some people to change for the better. Know that you being transparent is vulnerable, but to some degree, that vulnerability will lead to your healing over time. You know, if you trust it, and if, like what Asia Carroll just explained to you guys, if you're sharing this information with the right people, and like I want to call you Dr. Baseem so bad, so maybe that's in your future, but
no,
Mr. Baseem.
Speaking into existence.
Yes, all 2021. But Mr. Baseem said, you know, we need to seek the professional help that we need. Like some of us need help. You know, that's something that we talk about on the Sisters Talk platform all the time, is that we want to remove that stigma of counseling in the communities. So we have to be open to receiving the help. And if we don't acknowledge it, that we have an issue, then it's probably not going to get fixed. I also like how you explained, Mr. Baseem, how you self-medicated. And we know so many people that are doing that right now. You know, we never heal from the trauma. We never get closure from whatever circumstance we were faced with. And so we go to the next best thing, which is drinking, smoking, or pharmaceutical drugs. And that's how you form an addiction, you know. So getting that professional help is always the best way to go. So do you have advice for people who don't have access to, say, healthcare and the essentials that you need in order to pay for those type of services? What type of services do you provide to the community?
Well, I do a group session from time to time, you know, and I do one-on-one sessions, you know, and sometimes I find myself, you know, I do some pro bono work also in order just to give back, you know, because it's not always about getting rich. Sometimes you have to give something back in order for everybody to grow.
I love that idea of you saying to give back, because a lot of people forget everyone does not have that access to get the help they need based on their circumstances and situations. And if we're a community, it's very essential for us to give back to each other in whatever way, form, or fashion we can.
I agree 100%. You know, well, while we have you on, you know, I want to kind of give some examples, and Asia, feel free to jump in. Obviously, we're not going to name people by name, but I remember dating a guy who had a mom who was suffering from mental illness. Now, because he watched some of that play out, he grew to become a man who was very narcissistic. He was able to shut down his emotions towards anything or anyone, and it really turned him into a bad person, to say the least. What would be your advice for a person who's dealing with childhood trauma, watching one of their parents that they love dearly transform into someone they don't even recognize due to mental illness? What would you suggest for that situation?
Well, the key is to get help as soon as possible. What happens is so many of us wait so late in life to get help. By the time we get help, a lot of damage has already been done already. And there's for women, there are so many groups, self-help groups. It's out of this world. You all support each other in such a major way. For as men, we have a problem. For us, first of all, we have to put our egos to the side in order to get the help. In order to have change, you have to be willing to let something go. And I say, let your ego go so you can get the help that you need.
I agree. I agree 100%. Now, and that to me is where I feel like we'll hit a roadblock with some men, because I feel like, some men don't like to release anything. They don't want to release in conversation. They keep it all up here. And then that turns into other things. Go ahead.
Well, what happens is, as a man, he don't want to seem vulnerable at any time. Society told him that, he's supposed to have a big ego. He's supposed to stay on top of the world. And most men want to be alpha males. Not that all of them will be. But he want to lead the pack.
That's something I've never thought of before. Men wanting to be an alpha male, but not able to actually be that alpha male that they're trying to be. What does that really mean in regards to being an alpha male? Explain that to our audience, please.
Well, alpha male, if you're familiar with animals, you have that one dominant male out of the pack. So he leads the pack. Everybody else bow down and follow suit.
That's something.
Girl, we battle this every day. We see it on TV. We see it in society. It's really out of control. But I guess, what we're saying is good. But in my mind, I'm like, well, how do we really get to the root of it? Because there's so many people that need your help, but they'll never reach out to you. Why? Because of their pride or because of their ego. So how do we make it a safe environment where people feel comfortable enough to let those guards down and reach out for help?
Well, it's a slow process, but you have to learn to love yourself before you can learn anyone else. And part of the problem is when you don't love yourself, it's hard for someone else to love you. And that's where the alcohol, the drugs, and different addictions play a part, because that's your escape from dealing with your most intimate feelings.
Wow, that's something.
Nailing it. Would it be fair to say that there's so many relationships that didn't survive because one or the other person had dealt with some type of trauma, pretty much built this solid brick foundation around them so that they didn't allow their partner in? And I think some people are walking around thinking that they aren't good enough when they just don't know that their partner is secretly dealing with trauma.
Absolutely.
I know I've dealt with that for sure. I've been in relationships with men, and they were just quiet about their emotions totally. And anytime I tried to have a conversation to kind of see why they felt the way they did, they would be very vague. They would not go into detail, and they wouldn't share and open up with me.
Most likely they will change the subject.
Exactly. Yep. That's exactly what will happen.
But that's as males, that's what we're famous for. When we don't want to deal with something, we're going to change the subject, because like I said, we never want you to think of us as weak.
So now how do we, as your partner, I didn't mean to interject, but like, how do we How do we help you to not feel that way? What's the solution to that?
Well, that's a hard sell, but I would suggest, because a lot of people really don't know each other. What happens is we become intimate so fast that we never have an opportunity to actually get to know each other. And by the time it's time to get to know each other, the damage is already done. You have a physical attraction with the individual, and you start becoming emotional because of you all being physical with one another, but you still don't know each other.
Very solid. That is so true. Especially nowadays, people they move quick. I mean, they're married within 6 months, some people, if they even make it that far. And it's just no way, in my mind, you can know somebody within 6 months. And I also think that, I don't know if you agree with this, Asia, or not, that it's really important to get to know a person when they're at their angriest point, because you want to know how they will respond. How will they treat you? Will they still treat you the same?
Absolutely. Yes, I totally agree. I personally I refuse to be in a relationship with someone if I haven't seen them at that angry moment, because some people may be angry and they may punch walls when they're angry, and that's a form of abuse, and people don't know that. And so it's very important to see someone in, as Tyler Perry put, in all 4 seasons, when they're angry, when they're struggling, when they have, different situations happening. So I definitely agree with that.
Yes. Christopher Romaine says, thank you for the information. Men are taught not to cry, talk about our problems, or seem weak. And that's what you said the whole show.
Absolutely.
And that's in a way it's good, because I know men are put here to, well, at least we believe, to protect, protect their families, protect. What do you think? What's your take on that?
Well, you absolutely hit the nail on the head. Men are here to protect, provide shelter. And in the process of protecting and providing, you have to understand something. When you send a man off to war, he's going to see some things that are going to devastate him. And if you have no way of fixing this man when he comes back, you're dealing with a broken man.
Now, what if you're in a situation where you are dealing with a man and you realize that he is broken and you're trying to get through to him to get help, and he's just feeling that he doesn't need it? What could someone do in that situation, whether it's a mother, a sister, a friend, or even a romantic partner? How can they help that person get the help they need?
Well, the honest truth, you have to want to get some help. I can want you to get help, but until you're ready to embrace the fact that you need help, it's almost like a lost cause. That's just like a drug addict. You're going to be a drug addict until you wake up one morning and you be like, yo, I don't want to do this anymore.
Wow, that's something. I agree with that.
I do too. There's no way you can force somebody to get help. And that's kind of what I was kind of twirling around in my brain, is like, well, there's so many people that need help, but they'll never show up. They'll never reach out because they are who they are and they're not ready. So I guess maybe it's fair to say that people, go ahead.
Well, what happened is it's the stigmatism of seeking help, especially like in the Black community. Oh, you're going to see a psychiatrist, people really look down upon it, opposed to embracing you for getting some help.
Why do you think we do that?
Out of ignorance.
I agree. And that's crazy. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just saying I agree with that as well. Yeah,
we grew up with probably family members and parents saying like, oh, they're going to the psychiatrist. They must be something wrong with them. And it's just like, we turned it into something negative with, getting help. We turned getting help into something negative, and we shouldn't do that. And we don't get the help, we're just going to live through life, making bad decisions, breaking people's hearts because we didn't fix ourselves. So I really appreciate you doing this segment with us today, because I'm pretty sure more than half the ladies, especially watching this today, they dealt with something in their relationships or in their marriage and they couldn't put their finger on it. And it might be because their significant other is dealing with some secret trauma that they don't know about, and he or she hasn't healed from it yet. So can you let people know the best way to contact you?
Oh, the best way to contact me would be you can contact me on Facebook, Baseem Abdul-Aziz. You can contact me on Instagram, Baseem Abdul-Aziz. You can contact me at my website, www.developinglifesnewdirection.com. Or you can reach me at 908-416-2934.
Give it to us one more time.
908-416-2934.
Asia, I felt like you were trying to say something and I cut you off.
No, I wasn't. I was just clicking to unmute my mic. I'm sorry.
Wow. Well, Mr. Baseem, we really thoroughly appreciate you today. We didn't get too deep, but we got deep enough on the topic. And I know it's something that our audience really wanted to hear about. And, maybe the next time when we have you on, we're going to dig a little bit deeper, because we're going to give you examples. There's so many people that have gone through so many treacherous things you wouldn't even believe. And maybe we can have some of those people on the show so that they can share their experience with you if that's something you're interested in doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Definitely interested.
Awesome. Asia, do you have any final words?
Well, I just want to thank you very much for being vulnerable and open up the opportunity in the discussion for men who are dealing with silent trauma. It's something that we don't talk about, especially in our community. And I think we need to continue the conversation in order for people to feel more comfortable with their trauma, especially men. So thank you very much for being vulnerable today.
Definitely welcome. I'm available anytime you all want to call me back. It's a subject that I believe we need to discuss this often. And, I'm looking for other strong men that are interested, and let's form some men groups in order to help some men to get over some of the trauma that they're dealing with.
I think that's essential. We definitely need more, even if it's a Facebook group, some type of group where men feel safe, because with other men, they're able to open up more. And for you to even put that out there into the atmosphere for people to feel safe enough to contact you, that's opening the door right there. So thank you so much again.
Yes,
Definitely.
I agree. There was a male group that went on live, I think it was last week, and I'm trying to find their names right now because I definitely want to link you two together. The guy's name is William Winfield. And oh my God, it was 4 guys on the podcast, and they were just being the most transparent I had ever seen anyone be on a live stream. And I mean, we're talking down to how they felt that they were narcissistic about certain situations, how they mistreated individuals based on how high up they thought they were as an individual. Like, they were being very, very open, very honest, and it's just something you don't see, especially in the African American community when we're talking about our men. So I'll definitely link you guys up. You guys can check each other out. I'm all about uniting. I'm all about getting the word out about removing the stigma of counseling, and like, you are in perfect alignment with what I am on a mission to do. Thank you, Asia, for connecting me with Mr. Baseem. He is amazing. You are
Absolutely.
amazing, sir. And I look forward to doing more business with you in the future.
I look forward as well. And thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, audience, I hope you enjoyed the segment today. As always, thank you so much for tuning into the Sisters Talk podcast. This is our first episode for 2021. Look forward to many, many more. Our calendar is full for January. So we'll be on every Sunday except for January the 17th, which is our anniversary, Sister Talk Podcast anniversary. Shout out to Nikki with Nikki's House of Cheesecakes. Girl, you started out with me. I couldn't have done any of this without you. Shout out to Grade A Radio. Shout out to Nafisa Muhammad. Shout out to Terry. You guys, in case you don't know who she is an amazing African-American woman who just landed a French deal with the French Art Museum. I think it was a multi-million-dollar deal. So I'm looking forward to having her on the show in February. And we have one more comment. Christopher Romaine says, we definitely need more men groups, and let's include some financial literacy as well. You can't be a breadwinner if you're losing. Oh, come on now. Come on.
That's awesome. I love that.
Thank you, Chris. That's my brother.
That's awesome. All right, guys. You guys have a blessed Sunday. And again, thank you guys for tuning in.